Hi everyone, welcome back to Without a Piano. This is a video about whole steps and half steps, and you've learned a lot so far. We had a review, and what we have now is some information about how to build a scale. Okay, we did major, we did minor, and we talked about whole steps and half steps, but I want to go into that a little bit more. Before we do that, I'm going to show you what you can do to draw a piano. So you have two options now. One is to draw it yourself. If you do that, just grab a piece of paper, turn it to the side like this. Lined paper is better, takes less time. And then you draw a straight line across. Doesn't have to be perfect. Over here, you just start drawing in the black keys. All right. May take a minute. See what's going on here. You do two. This light is too bright, isn't it? Changing the lighting. Okay. All right, you do two, skip a line, three. Okay. So you may keep working on that while I'm talking to you. I am not an artist, can you tell? But me not being an artist is a good way to demonstrate that you don't need to be a visual artist to learn to draw your own keyboard. It is pretty simple. And it'll allow you to learn and navigate your way around the keyboard so that when you do sit down at a keyboard, you're going to know so much. You may be sitting down at the keyboard for the first time. At some point, you're going to know so much more than you did before. It may have been a mystery to you before, but now you understand your way around it a little bit better. You understand music theory through the lens of piano keyboard. All right, whole steps and half steps. So a whole step is, you reference this, you reference your drawing. I'm gonna show you on a regular keyboard, but a whole step is, no, let me fix that. A half step is as close together as two notes can be. So it may be a white key to the nearest black key or a white key. It could be a black key to the nearest white key. We don't have any two black keys that are exactly next to each other because there's always a white key in between. See that? All right. So, whole step. Let's go to middle C. Remember middle C? Find your group of two, 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 two. Find a group of two. You go down to the left. Down meaning to the left. That also means pitch gets lower as you go down, pitch gets higher as you go up. So you're going to go down, which is the same as to the left, as close as can be from this group of two, and that's your middle C, okay? So taking a middle C, if you want to go a half step higher, you're just going to go the closest note possible right here, okay? Go back to middle C. Half step lower, closest note possible, right there, okay? So, here we go. Half step, 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 and then find your way all the way to the octave. We've talked about octaves before. Quick review. An octave is the two notes of the same name that are as close as they can be to each other and still have the same name. So these are the closest C's. This is one octave. If you go 2 Cs away, that's 2 octaves, okay? A little aside. Back to half steps. So I stacked all these half steps on top of each other. Okay, we could start anywhere, random note. All right, that's a scale made up of half steps. A scale made up of half steps is called a chromatic scale, okay? Chromatic scale. Now, let's go to whole steps. Actually, back up. So I played you a couple chromatic scales. I played you this one. That's a C chromatic scale because it starts and stops on C. I also played you a random one, and I happened to start on this note, which as we know is A. Chromatic scales can be a little tricky. All right, A to A. That's A chromatic scale. So how about starting here? This note is called, well, it's called E flat. We'll get into that. It could also be called D sharp for reasons you may guess. But you don't need to know that right now. We'll just know that this is, let's call it E flat this time. Half steps built from E flat. With all the notes in between in order. That's an E flat chromatic scale. We had it. All these examples I've played for you so far are ascending. It's like when you ascend the stairs, you're going up. So all of these were ascending scales, but you can just reverse it. And that is an E flat chromatic scale descending. All right, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is whole steps. Okay, whole steps are almost as close as 2 notes can be on the keyboard. Whole steps are 2 half steps stacked on top of each other, okay? So you skip the note in between and you go to the next one up. So it's the second note, it's the second half step away. That's a whole step. A whole step can look like this. 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 All 4 of those looked different from each other. We have 2 white keys, 2 black keys, a white key and a black key with the white key on the bottom, a black key and a white key, black key on the bottom. All right, those are all whole steps. And the way you can tell is there a note in between? And is there only one note in between? And if the answer is yes, I'm using the words note and key interchangeably here. If the answer is yes, there's only one note in between or one key in between, then you've got yourself a whole step. So let's see, how about a little quiz? Is this a whole step? Think about it. The answer is no. The reason this is not a whole step is because there are 2 notes in between that are not being played. Those 2 notes are not being played. These 2 notes are being played. All right, what about this? Is this a whole step? The answer is yes. And the way you know that is because there is only one note that's squeezed in between this one that's not being played. All right? This is your whole step. So, check this out. I'm gonna play a big stack of whole steps. Sounds so weird, doesn't it? Now this is something that occurs in music sometimes, but honestly, not that often. But it is called a whole tone scale. It's when you start with any note, could be any note, this one's fine, and then you just build whole notes on top of it. I mean, whole steps. I don't even know what fingers to use because this is such an uncommon thing to play in music. Chromatic scales, like we talked about a minute ago, though, those are much more common. All right? But it's good to know if you're learning whole steps, it's good to know what a whole tone scale is. All right. That's all I got for you. Probably in our next lesson, we will do a quick review followed by how to build a major scale. All right? Thanks for sticking with me, everybody. And as mentioned at the beginning, there are now 2 ways to reference the keyboard without a piano. One is to draw it, like we have here. And the other way is to print it. All right, so for all the units, and I guess if you're on my website, you can click the link to the document, but you can print this, and it is the exact same size as my piano keyboard. That was by design. Okay? Anyway, thank you all, and I'll see you next time.